I've never been more energized and excited to defeat the far left and save our country. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik joins us now from New York. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here. I want to get started by saying congratulations being elected by your peers, the other members of the Republican caucus, to be their conference chair. A lot of people hear that term conference chair. They have no idea what that means. Why don't you explain it to them?
The role of the conference chair is to really lead the message of House Republicans and making sure that we have a unified message that resonates across America in all types of congressional districts. It also is important to have a pulse of the top priorities of the American people to make sure that we're focusing on those issues that voters care about. And certainly there's a lot that's going on right now. We've seen the radical, destructive, far-left socialist agenda of Joe Biden and our members of Congress, but most importantly, the American people and the voters across this country are united in opposition to how radical these policies are, because we're already seeing the devastating consequences.
Yeah, speaking of radical ideas, just this week we had the members of the squad, particularly Ilhan Omar, saying some just stunning things that were so bad that even people in her own party, all the way up to the top, Nancy Pelosi, had to push back, as she was essentially equating America and Israel with Hamas and the Taliban. I mean, how much will the left put up with to have that kind of rhetoric? Because I find it not just offensive, but stunningly offensive.
Not only is it stunningly offensive, it is un-American. This is not the first, nor the second, nor the third time that Ilhan Omar has made un-American and, frankly, anti-Semitic statements targeting Israel. And this is an issue where I think we need to make sure the American people know that Nancy Pelosi has made sure there are no consequences to Ilhan Omar. She sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and because of her statements earlier this year and earlier in her career, many Republicans have called for her to be removed from that committee. You're now seeing a very universal call publicly to remove her from that committee, but Nancy Pelosi has refused to do so.
Dealing with foreign affairs is not just Israel. Let's talk about what we now know, and that is that the virus that plagued the world, pretty much shut our economy down, killed 600,000 Americans, didn't come from bat soup or a wet market. Most likely came as a leak out of the Wuhan Virology Center. The troubling thing, we've now learned that there was a concerted effort to keep the truth away, not just from the American people, but from the American political leaders, to outright lie. And the media were co-conspirators in this. Now they try to come out and pretend that they're interested in the truth. But this is a very serious issue, and I think one that touches Dr. Fauci. Will something happen to him? Will he be held accountable? And will China be held accountable?
Number one, Dr. Fauci should absolutely be held accountable. We need to fire Dr. Fauci. He has outstayed his welcome. He has been in the position leading the infectious diseases program under NIH for my whole life, Mike. And it's an example of a bureaucrat who has been there far too long and is playing partisan political games. In terms of holding China accountable, this should be at the top of the agenda of President Biden as he is on his first international trip, is working with our allies to ensure China is held accountable and, frankly, to make China pay for the economic global destruction and loss of life that was caused because of this.
Congresswoman, my last question, it relates to something that is about as far away from you as possible. It's the southwest border. You're in New York, but yet all of us, everyone in America is affected by what's happening at the border. Quite frankly, I've heard you speak. You're far more articulate and interested in the southwest border than the vice president who's supposed to be in charge of it. What's up down there?
Yes, this border crisis is at a historic high. If you look at the May illegal border crossings, it was over 180,000, the highest it's been in 20 years. And as you point out, Governor, it's a humanitarian crisis, but it's a national security crisis, an economic crisis, as well as a homeland security crisis. So every American is impacted. Every member of Congress is impacted. And I'm very proud of Republicans for being very unified in highlighting this border crisis, talking about the importance of investing in border security, building that wall, but also supporting our men and women in green who are the leaders of the Border Patrol, who are just doing unbelievable work every day.
We are very grateful to have Congresswoman Elise Stefanik with us today, and we are so grateful for her time. I want to say to our audience, you can follow the Congresswoman on Twitter at Rep. Stefanik. It's right there on your screen. Now, Keith Bilbrey is going to tell us all about the great things that we've got coming up tonight, so take it away, Keith.
Well, up next, best-selling author Dr. Erwin Lutzer. Later, juggler and comedian Ivan Pucel. Stay with Huckabee.
There's something to be said about the unyielding sensation of freedom and the supernatural surge of adrenaline that overwhelms the soul. It's like your senses take on a different significance. That is when